Okay, so you catch me in the studio doing a bit of practice. I'm actually hitting a club, a very interesting club, which I've never experimented with before, and it's this mini driver concept that's been floating around golf for the last couple of years now. And I can only think it's a reaction to people struggling to get on with the modern day long-shafted, big-headed drivers. This is going to make golf feel a little bit more like you're playing with a 3-wood off the tee. I've never hit one before, so it's taken me a little while just to get used to it, but I'm quite enjoying it. And I'll tell you, for those of you of a certain age like me, it takes me back actually about 20 odd years to when drivers looked like this. So you'll see if I show you the two heads, that's my own current driver, and this is the mini driver here. You can see there's a very big difference in the footprint and the overall size, especially when you look at the face of the club here. You can see a very big difference in the profile of the clubs. Not only that, we've actually got a 2-inch difference in the shaft length here as well. So this really is straight back to 25 years ago. And this is what drivers look like. Do you remember the first Callaways that came out? The heads they seemed enormous then. And the shafts were about this length too. So that's what it made me feel like, sort of hitting an older style driver, but with the modern technology. So I guess I'm here to give you my opinion and my advice. I mean, I'm trying to think who it's aimed at. We've had a lot of interest from people in the shop about mini drivers. And I think if you struggle with driver, and especially on a course like Woking, where hitting the fairways is paramount to your ability to score, and you're not overly comfortable with the big-headed drivers, or you tend to hit them, offline too much, then this is probably a good place to start thinking about. The reason it goes more consistently and more sort of less dispersion is, several factors here are helping you. The shorter shaft means it's easier to wheel. People are often happy hitting a 3-wood than a driver. This is a 3-wood length shaft. We've got a little bit more loft on the club, so 13 degrees this has got, and you can actually put it up even more if you wish, compared to 10.5 on my driver. And because of the head design and the shape, you're going to create, and the loft obviously, you're going to create more backspin when you hit the shot. So with more higher launch and a little bit more backspin, any side spin that you impart on the ball is going to have less sideways effect. So really that's where the secret lies in this. But more importantly than that, I think it's more of a mental thing. People prefer to tee the ball a little bit lower, and feel as though they're not hitting up on the ball so much. So you can hit this with a little bit more of a squeezing action. And really, I'm going to show you the results in a second just to see what the differences are between my driver, which I've hit loads of shots of, and this mini driver, so that you can see if it's something that might be of interest to you. So I guess before we have a look at the results, let's have a bit of a closer look at the club itself. It's made of titanium, like a driver. It's got a graphite crown, like a driver. Titleist say the differences here are that they've flattened the sole so that it can be played from the fairway, and I'll show you the results of that later, and made it very, very playable whilst keeping all the Titleist attributes like a really solid feel and everything. And I have to say, hitting it was a lot of fun. Now, I quite like hitting my driver too, so it wouldn't be something that I would instantly jump to. And there are problems when you try and hit this club off a fairway compared to off a tee. And I'll show you that a little bit later on. But you can't really have a club which does both very, very successfully. There has to be some give and take, purely because of the point on the club where the ball is going to strike. Let me grab a ball, I'll show you. So if the ball is teed up, we're able to hit the ball very slightly on the upswing and get the strike out of the middle of the face. But if it's sitting on the ground, by definition, the best we can do is get the strike, down the bottom end of the club there. So it's only the strike's going to move down the face. And as you all know with drivers, when you hit the ball off the bottom of your driver, it doesn't go as fast and it backspins up a little bit more, because of where you've struck it on the face. So you can't get round this problem that you're going to have when you hit it off the deck. It's going to come off the bottom of the club, and therefore it's going to not go quite as far. When you tee it up a little bit, and you only need it about a centimetre or so, you can get it out the middle of the club and get a little bit more performance out of it. So let's have a little bit of a closer result of what I did with it. compared to my driver, and then you can decide, as I said before, whether you want to come and try it, take it out on the course. I'll be really interested to see what you make of it, especially for those people who struggle with driving. You know, this might be something that is very, very useful to you. So let's have a look at the results and see what I made of it. So here we are, our familiar results table. We've got the driver, my own driver that is, the mini driver off the T-peg, and then I hit the mini driver off the ground, and these are the averages of the results. We can see here that with my own driver I got a ball speed of 148. The mini driver dropped by 5 miles per hour, not to be unexpected because it's more loft on it and the shaft is shorter, so we'll see how the club head speed was affected shortly. And then off the deck, with a similar good striking, we saw an even further drop in ball speed simply because of the part of the club that I was able to access when the ball was off the deck. And that's reflected here in the launch angle too. So my driver launched at 12.1, that's what I aim for. The mini driver a little higher because it's a 13-degree golf club, understandably. And then off the deck, I was only able to launch it at 9.8 degrees, again, because I'm hitting it off the bottom of the club by definition. And as I alluded to earlier, the spin rate, once you hit it off the deck, climbs here quite substantially. But that's not unexpected for what you'd get for a 3-wood off the deck anyway. So not too bad, but it does affect how far the ball goes off the deck. So my own driver carry on average 252. The mini driver cost me 15 yards, but would I give up those 15 yards to hit a lot more fairways and feel more comfortable over the shot? Probably, is the answer. And then off the deck, 221. That's not dissimilar to what I get with my own 3-wood at 15 degrees. So I'm not getting much of an advantage off the deck, but if I had one club to do both of them, I guess that would be a benefit. I just feel a little bit happier with a club off the ground that hasn't got quite such a deep face. So let's have a look what happened actually at strike here. So efficiency, obviously that's pretty similar throughout. So I hit the middle of the club or somewhere near the middle of the club quite a lot of the time. Here we go. Start to see the changes here. Club head speed 104 with my own driver on average. Dropped to 101 if you round it up there with the mini driver, purely because the shaft is shorter. So it just generates less speed. The dynamic loft at impact, obviously up because it's a more lofted club. And we can see over here, the strike points is what I was talking about. So my own driver, that tends to be where I hit it, slightly toe side. The mini driver, I found more centered on the golf club because obviously I had to tee it lower. I didn't fancy having a high tee with a smaller headed club. And then with the mini driver off the deck, as I said before, that is about as high up the club face as you're going to get the strike on a tight lie. Be better off in a fluffy lie, you could probably get it a bit higher. But that's what's affecting the performance of it off the ground for me. So just going back again to the ball data, if you can see here, you're going to give up a bit of distance against your drives, but if you're not comfortable with your driver or you feel a lot happier with a smaller headed, shorter shafted club, you're not giving up too much for a good bit of accuracy, and you're going to hit more fairways, then that's not a bad decision. So just looking at the results, obviously in a sort of spread pattern on the fairway here, you can see the yellow balls were my own driver. The blue balls were the mini driver off a T-peg, and the red ones were the ones I hit off the deck. Now the one back here is because I really struggled to find the middle of the club on that first one, and I did catch it a bit thin, so it's not gone as far. But generally speaking, you can see that my driver is worth more. Dispersion wise, for me, very similar. I mean, I'm not too bad with driver as it happens. I feel comfortable with it, but I didn't see a tightening up of the pattern with a 3-wood. So that's why I'm sort of leaning towards it's those people who just don't feel comfortable with their driver here. And then off the deck, you can see I can't quite hit it as far, but again, still very useful to have a club which can do tee and fairway shots, I imagine. Interesting though. So in conclusion, what would I say? I think for some people, this is going to be a really useful alternative to a driver. I've just picked out my own 3-wood, and now you can see the difference in size between the mini driver and a modern day 3-wood. So you can see it gives her plenty much more confidence off a tee shot having that bigger face than the 3-wood here. My own 3-wood carries around about 220, and I got 237 off the tee. So it's a little bit more powerful because of its titanium construction compared to my existing 3-wood. So there definitely is a market for the mini driver. I do know a lot of tour pros have got it in the bag as a 3-wood because it just gives them that extra bit of distance. And obviously they don't need help off the tee generally, although I've seen a few players hit it off the tee. So this is Titleist's offering. We also have Callaway's Elite mini driver in the studio here for you to try as well. If you struggle with driver, come and give it a go and just see if it fits a bill for you. I've been quite impressed with it, but for me personally, I'd happily stay with driver and 3-wood because I'm very happy with my driver. Hope that's helped. Hope you enjoyed that. As I say, come and give me a hit. I'd love some feedback on it, and we'll see you again soon with some more new products, hopefully.